Today in our 2016 Nissan Murano, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Curt T-connector vehicle wiring harness with the 4-pole flat trailer connector. That's going to be part number C56267. So here's what our wiring is going to look like once we have it installed. It is going to live on the inside of the vehicle until we're ready to use it to tow, and it is going to provide us with a 4-pole flat trailer connector. It's going to give us all the lights we need to safely get down the road, like our tail lights, turn signals, and our brake lights. All the connections are going to be made on the inside of the vehicle underneath some of these panels here. It's going to connect in between our tail lights to get the signal, and then we're going to get our power source from a connector back here. It is going to be fuse protected, so it's going to protect our vehicle wiring in case any kind of problems on the trailer end were to happen and prevent any kind of backfeeding. Our wiring is going to come with everything you need to get it in place, and now that we've seen the end result, let's show you how to get it installed. To begin our installation, we're going to want to open up our rear hatch, and we're going to need to remove the floor coverings back here. So we'll pull out the mat. And this, we don't have to completely remove it, but we want to make sure that it's out of the way so we can lift it up and just have the hook to hold it in place. Now on each side we are going to have these other floor coverings, so we want to make sure we pull those out as well. And we'll set these aside. Now on each side we're going to have this plastic pocket, and we're going to have two fasteners that are holding it in place. One kind of towards the back and then one more towards the front of the vehicle. We're going to grab a 10mm socket and we're going to pull those bolts out. Once we have the bolts removed, we're just going to lift up and we'll pull this pocket out. Now on the passenger side, we are going to have to remove the jack in order to get to the hardware so we can take the panels out. And we're going to want to grab our harness, and we're going to grab the T connector that has the yellow, brown, and red wires on it. If we come over to the driver's side, we'll find a connector. It's going to be taped up to some other wiring right here. We're going to want to loosen up that tape so we can take a utility knife or a pair of scissors. We're just going to cut the tape away so we can get access to that plug. And once we pull the plug away, we're going to have this little tab. We're going to want to push down on that so we can separate the two plugs. Now our T connector is going to match these. So we're going to plug these in line with each other. So we'll take the male end, plug it into the female end, and vice versa. Just want to make sure they lock into place and you hear that click. Now if we move a little bit further downstream, right by the back of the threshold here, we're going to have this connector that's going to be taped to some more wiring. Again, we're just going to cut that tape away so we can free up the connector. And this is going to be a single pin connector. This is going to attach to the wire that has our fuse holder in place. Now before we plug it in, you want to make sure that the fuse is not in there. But we'll go ahead and plug it in. And again, make sure it locks into place and you hear that click. Now our T connector that has the green colored wire, we're going to route this along the back of the threshold here, and we're going to be going over to the passenger side. Now we're going to have the same style connector with some tape on it, and we're going to connect it just like we did on the driver's side. Now for now, I'm going to leave all my wires loose because we're going to be mounting our converter box, and we want to make sure that we have enough slack to tuck everything away. Maybe take some zip ties and tie it to some existing wiring. Now we're going to have one more connection we're going to have to make. It's going to be the white wire with the ring terminal. We're going to want to find a flat spot somewhere close back here that we can use the self-tapping screw to put this in place. Another option you have is if you can find an existing stud and nut, we can use that, but since there's really not a whole lot back here, I'm just going to take the self-tapping screw provided in our kit, And I'm going to be going directly into this spot right here. Give me a nice flat spot, and it's going to be next to our wiring, but there's nothing behind it, so we know it's going to be safe to go through. So I'll start my self-tapping screw, and I can take my ring terminal, slide my screw through, and secure it in place. You just want to make sure that it's not going to move around and that it's nice and snug. Next, we can mount our converter box. I have a rag with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. I'm just going to clean off the converter box, make sure there's no debris on there. And then I'm also going to clean off this spot that I'm going to be mounting it in. Now we're going to look for the most flat spot that we can find. So right in this general area, we know nothing's going to be in the way because it's going to be behind the panel. So we'll just clean this area off as well. Then we can take the double-sided foam tape, take the backing off one side, put it directly on the box, and then we'll peel the backing off the other side and push the converter box firmly in place. For our fuse holder, we can grab that 10 amp fuse. We'll go ahead and put it in place. And we're going to put our cover on, and then we're just going to come back and we're going to tidy up all of our loose wires, securing it to some of this existing wiring back here. So we'll just tie our fuse holder and our green wire that's over on the driver's side, tie it to this wiring here, and work our way across, making sure it's not going to interfere with anything. So with all of our connections made and our wiring tidied up back here, we're going to start putting those panels back in place. Just going to make sure that our wiring is coming underneath the panel and we can still get to it. So let's put it by our spare tire for now, so we can get everything lined up and get the bolts back in place. Put all of our floor coverings back. And for now, we're actually going to bring our 4-pole out. Just going to hang it down the back of the bumper. Now before our wiring is going to be activated, we got to make sure that we either put the provided 10 amp fuse in place or that there is one in the correct position. So we're going to come to our fuse panel here underneath the driver's side of the hood. We'll push in on this tab. We're going to lift up the cover. Now there is going to be a legend on the inside of the panel. It may be a little bit hard to read, but we're looking for the one that says towing. Now if we look, it's going to be the very bottom one, and if we look on our fuse panel, there's already a 30 amp fuse there. If it was empty, we want to go ahead and put the provided 10 amp fuse in place. So we can go ahead and test our wiring now. I'm going to be using a 4-pole tester, and if you need one of these, you can pick one up here at etrailer.com using part number I26. So I'll plug it in, I'm going to go run my lights and verify that they're all working properly. So if I turn on my headlights, we can see that the tail light function is working, as well as the left turn signal, the right turn signal, and the brakes. And before we store it away, we'll go ahead and put our dust cover on, slide it over the 4-pole end, put the cap on, then we can store it underneath by our spare tire here. And whenever we do want to use it, we simply pull it out, drop our 4-pole wire down, and so long as we stay away from the latch area itself, the weather stripping is going to have enough cushion so that when we close the tailgate, it's not going to damage the wire. That'll finish up your look at the Curt T-connector vehicle wiring harness with 4-pole flat trailer connector, part number C56267 on our 2016 Nissan Murano.